What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. Today, we're going to cover Kamen Rider gavv episode 11. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and I'm joined as always by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Pretty good, Josh. We're almost upon the finest holiday. We're about 1 week out from American Thanksgiving. And I decided this year, so I'm prepping you now.
Okay.
Next week, instead of coming up with a list of things I'm thankful for Thanksgiving,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to start reflecting upon a list of things that just really irritate the fuck out of me about everything.
Okay, cool.
And I'm just going to delineate a list next week. Like, not like long examples or anything like that. Like things like squeaky wheel on a shopping cart. Or like
Oh,
a
okay.
busty wheel. Like just rapid fire, bang, bang, bang. These are all the things that pissed me off this year. And I think that's really going to get the holiday spirit started for us going into Christmas as well.
So next week, Toby turns into Rodney Dangerfield or some sort of like early 2000s comic that has like a gimmick.
Get no respect.
Yeah.
See, if it's closer to Christmas, it'd be like Seinfeld, where they did the Festivus episode, which is a classic.
Oh yeah, it would totally airing of grievances.
Yeah. So if those,
Why do you think that this is the best thing to do on the holiday that's all about saying things that you're thankful for?
because like what good is it to do the same thing as everybody else? I think because like next week, if I was like, yeah, I wouldn't let everyone know that I'm thankful for the fact there's a bunch of people that like listen to us every week, and like you for being my friend and doing the show with me. Like you'll need to hear that shit. No one needs to hear that.
That's true. That felt terrible hearing that. No one wants that warm, fuzzy feeling.
No one needs to know that I appreciate the fuck out of everyone that's remotely involved in the spirit of this podcast. And instead, I want you all to know that my shopping cart tonight had 3 wheels instead of 4, and it was goddamn infuriating. And you're gonna hear about it next week.
That's cool. I'm excited to hear about it next week because I've had the wobbly shopping cart. I've never had the fully 3-wheeled shopping cart. That's very cool.
It had like a gangster lean to it. You couldn't even push it. It did its own thing. Depending which way you leaned, it just tipped.
That's cool. I don't want to besmirch entire sections of the country, but it's really weird that people from the South call them buggies, right? That's so strange.
Carts, buggies, shopping carts. I don't know. Like, is it more tied to where there were still horse and buggies?
I don't know. So that's
Cars
what I
called
don't
buggies.
get. Yeah, like a car being called a buggy makes more sense to me, but a shopping cart being called a buggy, I just can't wrap my head around. And I can get some of the weird southern things that they do. Like, like if you want to call pants britches, fine. Let's do it. But like the shopping cart as a buggy it's a bridge too far for me. I just won't do it.
There's nothing on the internet that can even give me a good reason of why it's called this.
Okay.
But some people say basket as well. Like the cart itself is the basket.
The basket. I've heard people say that. Yeah, that's also weird. Put it in the basket.
That's like, yeah, it's like some of the I'll be polite since it's almost Thanksgiving. I'm not thankful for my coworkers who are not very tech savvy sometimes over all these years. And they say like, oh, my monitor won't turn on. And I'll say, okay, I'll bring you up a new monitor. And then I get up there and the tower's broken.
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit. Like
Yep,
it's the same generational thing where like it's 7 words that mean the same things but different. So like if I went south and was like, can I have a shopping basket? They'd probably give me a cart. And I'd be like, no, I wanted a cart. And then it'll be a whole thing.
So speaking of poor customer service experiences, also since we're heading into the holidays and nearing Black Friday, this is appropriate to talk about. I was almost one of those nightmare customers on accident and not my fault this week.
That's the cop out.
No,
it's not my fault that
just wait. I literally did nothing wrong through this whole story. So I'm not a big brand guy, I guess, to start off, but like there are a couple brands that I actually do kind of like. And so I won't actually name it, but like I was ordering a thing from a brand. I was ordering a bag from a brand. And they have like a whole bunch of different prints that you can get this one bag in. And there's one specific one that I wanted, which is like their like sticker design. And there's one specific one that I specifically didn't want, which is the camo design because it's not great looking. So I ordered the sticker design with some other things. I get my package, everything else is fine, but they sent me the camo bag instead. And I'm like, "Man, did I mess up and order the camo one?" So I go back and look at my original order. I did not. I did not order the camo one. I specifically it says in my email that I ordered the sticker one. So I'm like, "Oh, this is fine." So I email back and explain like, "Hey, I got the camo bag on accident. I was supposed to get the sticker bag. Can I get that instead?" And the dude, actually like the owner of the company, from his personal email emails back and was like, "Yeah, we'll send it out. Our bad or whatever." But he says, Toby, he says,
Uh
y- he says, "Yeah, our bad. I'll get the camo one in the mail to you right away." so so then I have to email back again and be like, "Oh man, I hope I caught you in time. You actually have it backwards.
oh.
You already
See,
sent me the camo
reading is a
one."
real problem. It's a real pandemic, epidemic, whatever the thing is, where reading just doesn't work sometimes.
Totally. So I had this like nightmare scenario for a moment of like, oh my god, I'm gonna end up with two camo bags, and I didn't want any of them, and I'm not gonna have the bag I still want. Luckily, he did reply back and like realized he was wrong. Like after I'd emailed, he was like, "Oh, okay, sorry." Like I think we'll see if I get the right bag. But I felt like one of those like super needy customers, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just like, "Oh no, please just reread." uh, yeah. So that was fun. Um, and I definitely was like considering before he emailed back like the final time. I was like, do I just stop at this point? Like, do I just like accept that I'm gonna have two of these and I don't really want either of them, and then just call it a day? Like
We just sell
the
them and buy the other one.
yeah, I guess like I could probably go through that avenue too, but it just felt like a bridge further than I wanted to go if I had to once again email back and be like, so I got the wrong one again.
So you guys aren't doing inventory properly. You're probably, too off at this point now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably missing 2 camel bags. I know where they went. They're at my house.
Are
Uh,
you There was one time where a record company sent me two of the same record for no reason, and I
that's
was only
cool.
supposed to get one, and I politely emailed them, and I was like, "Hey, your inventory is gonna be off. I definitely wasn't supposed to get this twice. I don't know what you're gonna do with this." And they're like, "Wow, thanks for being so honest. Here's a free shipping label. Can you please send it back to us? We'll make sure it's covered."
Whoa! You went out of your way to say that, you had 2 and then they requested it back. That's incredible. That is a bold play.
Well, like, because if it was the other way around, like if someone would have gotten my record, you know how weird I am about my collectible media.
Yeah.
If someone would have gotten my record, a record I cared about, and they were like, "Oh, we accidentally ran out. I don't know." Like I never probably would have known mine was lost because someone got two. But I'm
That's
very
true.
put the vibe out. I want to get back, so I was like, I'm gonna do the right thing, and maybe this will pay off in spades. And I don't know if it paid off at all, but at least did the right thing.
It does make sense, I guess, with records because technically supposedly, I guess, they often will do pressings where it's like, "Hey, we only made 300 of these and supposedly sold 300 or whatever." So, like, yeah, you very well might have had one that was intended for someone else and they wouldn't have had extra, I guess.
It was
Uh,
definitely one of the ones that were of it was literally of 300, and the only thing I did was I don't the first one I got, which I think technically would have been mine, had a higher press number than the second one I got. So of course I just kept the better number and I
good,
sent
good,
back
good.
to that one. But
If I was the company, I know it's hard, must be terrible running a company, but if I was the company, I would have maybe gotten that one back if the margins were as like tight as I assume they are with those pressings. I would have maybe gotten yours back, but then like given you like a big discount or something, right?
yeah.
Like oh hey, like next time you order from us, here take 50% off or something like that. Because yeah, that's very out of the kindness of your own heart, sort of a thing.
So it's funny you met like so along that vibe. Do you? Probably definitely one of those new things. Do you ever get emails from? I'm gonna call them people, but it's like businesses, but not. Like if I ordered a record from I order records from August Burns Red a lot, which is like a screamy Tobes core
Yep.
hardcore band.
Yep.
And like after every time I order, the first time I got like an automated quote unquote personal email from them that was like, "Wow, thank you so much for ordering from us. Let us know if there's anything we ever do for you. We appreciate your patronage, blah blah blah. August Burns Red. You can reply back to this email if you want to." And I was like, "Wow, that seems cool." And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, "Well, this is definitely automated. Like, I don't know if I really trust this. Whatever." And then, like, every time I've ordered since then, I get the same automated email of, "Wow, you're the best. You ordered from us again." And it just gets dumber and dumber every time I get the fake actual, like, "Hey, we appreciate you. Here's 10% off" bullshit.
Yeah, so my wife actually just showed me one of these. So, um, she orders, Native body wash, like, that's the brand, and so I like to use it too because it smells like a sugar cookie, and we order, like, because they usually have it around Christmas time, but it smells amazing, so we get, like, 6 bottles of it around Christmas time when they come out with it, so we can use it all year long. But anyway, she just ordered some, and she showed me the email that she got back when she placed an order, and I actually just found one online, so I can tell you it. But it is like the definition of cringe for me because it is, and I will read it directly. Person's name, so like the person who ordered it. So like name, you rock. It was just another mundane day at our office when suddenly Jackie took a look at the computer and her eyes widened. We did it, she exclaimed. We got an order from customer name. Laura jumped out of her chair and ran to Jackie's desk. She didn't even read the entire email. She just saw customer name and started screaming in delight. OMG, Laura shouted. This is real. We have an order from customer name. And then it goes on. There's 3 more paragraphs in that exact same vein. Paragraph 3 talks about them playing Party in the USA. The entire team is thrilled you're a customer. It's insane. Like,
My my favorite ones I get like that I always respond back to, whether it's, like, my actual work email, my personal email, the times where I get the automated messages, but for whatever reason their template didn't import properly.
oh
So it literally
yeah.
just says like customer name and brackets because I know it was supposed to pull like the first name field and didn't.
Uh
Those are the ones I like responding back to. And just usually with a smart ass comment of like, if you don't even know who I am, don't email me anymore.
huh.
And those ones I'd like, and it's funny because I think I told you a long time ago. So this might be a repeat story. There was a, like, you and I both work in tech, and I get so many unsolicited emails from people of, "Hey, we think you might be interested in our product. Let us know." And if you don't respond to the first one, they will email you again like every other day, and it's always like, "Hey, I maybe I missed your email. I don't know. Hey,
Yeah.
just checking in one last time if we could set up some time. I promise I'll stop bugging you after this one." Blah blah blah. So the one time the guy emailed me and made a joke about a football team that lost or won, or like my local team versus where he was from, whatever. And he made some joke about the football team. And he put my name as my last name instead of my first name because they're kind of interchangeable as like
Uh
names go. So I replied back and I was like, "A, if you're gonna email me, get my first name right and don't make it my last name."
huh.
And I was like, "B, along with that, I was like, that team is garbage and they lost. And if you're gonna use that team as leverage of why I'm gonna buy the product, like, I'm definitely not gonna do it." Because in my mind, I'm like, "Ha ha ha, this is a funny thing. I'm just gonna make a smart ass comment because no one's gonna read this." I'm like, someone's dumping this out of some email system. It's not gonna be any big deal. So like 30 minutes later, the guy emailed me back and was like, "Wow, I guess I hit a nerve on that football team thing, Toby." And I was like, it made some other comment.
Fixed
So
it.
and he was like, and he was even polite enough to be like, "I'm glad to see some people still have a sense of humor to these emails." So then, of course, I felt like a piece of shit. So I replied back, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't really care about the sports thing. I was really just joking around." I said, "I appreciate you taking a joke too." I said, "We're not interested in your product, but thank you very much." And he was like, "Oh, no problem at all. Thanks for getting back to me."
This is like this is like a recurring bit on the yard sometimes where they'll talk about like getting, especially with the election, like getting automated text messages like about voting for people or whatever, or filling out a survey and then replying with things like if I get one more of these texts, I'm going to swerve my car to the median and end it all.
I
um,
the
a-
one the
and
one
you attempted that, but it was a real person on the other end.
the first election, the first main election season, I remember getting all the emails or all the texts like daily from like both sides, like, "Hey, so and so needs your vote. You're gonna come out and vote, right?" Blah blah blah. The one day I got so pissed, I was like, "If you text me back again, I'm literally gonna vote for the other person, just so you know." And that was the day that was the day the text stopped for the year. And I was like, "Wow, someone definitely read that and was like, okay, I'm gonna stop just in case."
Exactly.
I
I get some of those. I'm sure you get them too. I'm sure everyone does. But those those text messages that are like attempting to extort you. So it's always just like, "Hey, is this Jim? Is this Nicole?" And like it's like a wrong number text, but then they'll like strike up a conversation. I'm sure you know those.
I do.
I got one of those recently, and I make it my personal mission to respond to those, but make it so that the person basically doesn't respond back like right away. So I got one of those recently that's like, "Hey Nicole, I heard that you adopted a lot of stray cats, right? I want to go to the nursing home to visit an old lady who's almost 60 years old. She'll have her 60th birthday soon, so I want to give her a kitten as a gift. Do you think you can help me take a look when you have time?" So naturally, I replied back and said, "Hey, sure. I have a lot of pussy experience." I didn't get a response on that one, Toby.
How rude. The other new spammy thing I noticed recently was people from like it's phone numbers that would be adjacent to like my area code. Like I don't
Oh
even know
yeah.
how the spam shit works. And it's just a text like I got one the other day of, "Hey, was just going through old college journals and you really helped me out." And I looked at it and I was like, I don't have the number saved, so I probably don't care who this person is at all. So I was going back and forth on it. I was like, but seriously, who the hell was this? And I started like Googling the phone number and stuff. And I couldn't find the number registered to anything. So I thought about it. I was like, this is definitely a spam thing. But I was like, this is actually pretty clever. And then after I thought about that first one, I got like two or three more in the next couple of days that were vaguely the same kind of conversation,
Uh-huh.
but like not close enough. And I was like, this is like the best new idea ever. Like this one I just found now says, "Hey, haven't heard from you in a bit. You okay?" And
Ooh,
it's
that
just a
one
random
is
number,
yeah.
but like it triggers my like ADD. I need to solve this mystery brain part. That's like, wait, do I know this number though? Like, who is this really?
Yeah, that actually is really good. Those are much better than most of the ones I get, which are like so obviously spam.
Though?
Hey, I need you to help transfer this Nigerian prince's money into the United States. Do you think you could work with us on that?
I miss those. It used to be so simple back then.
It
It was
did.
always just here's $30 billion if you give me 1,000. And now there's like too many levels, and all the time they're like, oh, we have videos of you doing bad stuff. If you give
Yeah.
us money, we promise we will delete the videos and not send them out, all that kind of stuff.
I feel like you specifically get those a lot.
I do, and
Yeah.
I always like sharing because it's always hilarious to me.
Yeah, those are always really good. It's like, "No, you don't actually have those videos." I can
And even if you
confirm.
did, that's okay because even if I paid you, you're still gonna send it out if you had it. So hey,
Also, maybe the internet deserves to see it. Maybe that's where we're
yeah.
currently at. Yeah.
And then my last irritating spammy email thing that happens now. This one company specifically that I bought hoodies from once, all their email subjects always start with RE, semicolon, and then words. So if I'm not
Ugh.
really paying attention to the email, I think it's actually someone replying to me. So I
Y
open it
Yep, I've
and I'm
seen
like, you
those.
motherfuckers, you got me again.
Yep,
And
I
those
hate
bother me.
that so much, yeah. Some of the people that I get work emails from will do that, some of the ones you mentioned earlier, so they'll have the, like, really, really, um, specifically worded email to make it look like we were in the middle of a conversation, whether it is using "re" or, like, "Hey, just getting back to you," or, "Hey, just following up," like that sort of a thing, and it's just
Crafty,
like,
crafty people.
I will never talk to you. Like, it's kind of like the people who come door to door and like knock on my door to like sell services and stuff. Like, I don't care how good your company is and how awesome of a roofer or whatever you might be. Because you bugged me and knocked on my door, I will never use you. Never in a million years. Uh, that's the kind of person I am.
And speaking of the kind of person you are, you also like talking about Kamen Rider Gav.
I do. Toby, let's
What
jump
a
into
segue.
the episode. Um, It is this is a weird episode, I think. It's really, I don't know if it was bad, but it was certainly interesting. So there's a lot to talk about here.
I
Um
laughed throughout almost all of it because of
okay.
how absurd the catfishing plot was.
Yeah. Yep. It's
And
also just kind of absurd that there was a catfishing plot, I think. Like
well,
I
I
don't-
mean,
to go back, we talk about it a lot, but like this is a show that's aimed at like relatively young people, like not necessarily like 100% children, but like young adults and stuff is like the primary audience in Japan. And like to have a whole plot about catfishing is very funny, I think. Just like weird subject matter.
so I guess just looking up the Target demo real quick. I guess it's still the Kuga vibe, wherever that fancy thing was called the Odagiri effect, where like
Uh,
the
that's my it's my
Odagiri
favorite
effect
type of sushi.
originated in Kamen Kuga, everyone's favorite TV show, the television series aimed at children and early teens. However, the producers discovered that the show attracted two different audience types: children between the ages of 4 and 12, whom the show was actually aimed for, and women around the age of 30, who all thought Kuga was probably handsome.
Yeah, fair.
So I feel like maybe depending on if Kamen Rider like sways a little heavier in age, like 6 to 16, I guess it is legit to try to like maybe teach people not to get catfished or like be
Yeah,
careful what you're
yeah.
looking at here.
Yeah, it's a very, like, modern storyline for sure. Like, "Hey, my sister has been talking to this dude online, and, like, I'm fairly certain he's not real." So, like, being worried about that is, like, such a modern worry, a modern
I
problem.
There's a lot of red flags in these DMs. He slid up in her DMs and then he was sending her bad stuff like, "Oh, you're the moon and I'm the oasis, and one day our celestial bodies will collide." And then she was giggling in her bedroom, sending Hanty bad videos or something. I don't know. They cut away pretty quick. I wasn't sure what happened there.
Yeah, they for sure sexted, right? 100%.
That's why she was
Like
so in love. When she first saw him, she was like, "I love you so much."
she was, yeah. She was ready to get married instantly. Yeah, because as we're alluding to, the person that she thought she was texting was the face of Honto. So again, it was a pure catfish. His picture was online because of his reporting, and yeah, was not him. And I love that the obviously we get to the end, we find out the real story here. It was a Granute that had been, catfishing her, but a Granute who takes the form of a young human boy.
My favorite my favorite part of that specifically was when they figured out when it was the boy. And like he legit looked like he was like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And Shoma grabs him and goes, "Hey, you're a Granute. You stole my friend." And this little tiny baby face kid goes, "That was all part of my plan." And that's one of the times I started dying because I was like, "Holy shit, this is the best idea ever!" To give him like a gruff 50-year-old voice on his little baby body.
And then when he actually like goes full like Granute monster, he's got what looks like a giant beard, basically.
Yeah, it was amazing.
um, Listen, I don't want to tell the Granutes how to do their job, but if he had looked like a human adult male instead of a child, he wouldn't have had to do the whole fake picture thing. He could have just had a picture of himself, and his whole gimmick would have been way easier. He could have cut out the whole middleman here that got him caught if he had just, been an adult. Would have been so much simpler. So
Like
that
it's like
that aspect of the plot made me laugh really hard that it was a boy for no reason.
I yeah. It's just when you build your dream partner. It's the face of a Hanty the investigator, and then the body of a Granute.
That's
You want that stomach that has a mouth on it. Yeah, I know.
that is fair. Yeah, it's the stuff that fan fiction is made of, I guess. Um and Toby, of course, I'm in the presence of greatness here today, I should say. Because you supposedly are a master predictor in tokusatsu. We've been hearing about it.
We have made jokes about that before.
We
Every
have.
once in a while, I've been known to call a shot like Babe Ruth.
Now, do you remember what you predicted last week that actually came true this week?
So I don't, because you and someone else both mentioned to me, "Holy shit, you called this!" And then I mean, the whole episode went by, and I was trying to think of all the dumb shit I've said so far. That like I vaguely mainly was like, "Oh, this is definitely going to be a thing," and nothing that happened this episode jumped out to me at all. Of like me saying, "Hey, I called this." Like I was waiting, like the one I was waiting for. I was waiting for Chica to make a comment about a Gochizo and Hanto or Hanty, whatever, Investi, and Shoma to both be there and like grab for it or something along those lines.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
waiting for that to happen. That was in my mind, the prediction I remembered. That was like, this is how they're going to figure out who's who.
Well, I want to call out an email we got from Kieran because Kieran also wrote in specifically calling out that you have, quote, become too knowledgeable about toku. The thing that you called, that Kieran points out, and that I recognized when I was watching the show, we were talking about how exactly we thought it might wrap up with them figuring out who each other are. And one of your predictions, like your, I think, main prediction really, was that Hanto would get attacked and would dehension from the damage, and then Shoma would see him, and that's how he'd find out.
Hell
So
yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, you literally called it exactly how it would happen, which is what happens here, and it's incredible. Your power grows too strong. We have created a monster.
And like as we've said other seasons, other years when we've recapped our lives together in this, the wild vibe or the arc of what the fuck is this show to now people recognizing my skills in predicting children's media is wonderful.
Yeah, it truly is. Yeah, so Kieran Toll Evo says, I want everyone to acknowledge that Toby fully called last week when and how the secret identity storyline would wrap up. He's definitely become too knowledgeable about Toku. Um, Hilarious. Yeah, just incredible. And that is indeed how we, I won't say wrap up, but like progress that storyline. So Hanto gets involved in this Granute fight, and Shoma is of course there. They're both henchmen, they're both fighting, and Shoma kind of takes out the Granute, but not before one last giant attack flies out of the Granute at Hanto, at Kamen Rider Valen, hitting him so hard he dehensions. So then Shoma, as Gav, is standing there staring at the bloodied face of Hanto on the ground, being
It
like,
was real runny
"What?"
too. It was like real gross, like running blood. It wasn't
It
just like
was.
the normal spray, like the little like spray on sticky glue they usually do. It looked like it was like actually like dripping as he was laying there, kind of thing.
It was serious. They had to let you know, like, hey, he actually got dehensioned here. There's
He's
a
not ready for
reason.
this.
Yeah. So now we get the continued drama basically next week, of course, I'm sure, of Shoma knows who Hanto is, but Hanto doesn't know who Shoma is, and now they have this lopsided relationship where maybe Shoma's got to keep hiding, but now he's going to be even weirder. And
I feel like with the way they're both their characters work, I feel like Shoma's gonna be extra awkward
definitely.
and like not know how to handle the new knowledge. Like he's gonna be like the equivalent of like he saw his friend getting cheated on or something like that. And he's just like not he's gonna like dance around the issue awkwardly and not really know how to talk about it, but like still drop stupid hints because he doesn't know any better and just doesn't know how to handle situations properly.
Yeah, they're going to be like both trying to fight a Granute. He's just going to be weird about it for sure. Yeah, 100%. But it's a fun. That's a fun wrap up. I liked that progressing, because I was worried, as after we talked about it last week, and this kind of going on, like the kind of like outside chance. I didn't think it was necessarily 100% likely, but there was an outside chance. I was worried about it happening, that this just stretches on forever, and we go just like episode after episode of these like close calls, don't know who each other are thing. So it's nice to see that like they're making progress on that storyline, because it could have been a thing that lasted a really long time. So it's good to see that we're moving along.
Yeah, we have the natural stopping point is definitely closer at this point.
Yeah.
Uh, like I mean, for a while we've been saying like, oh, next week or the week after has to be the actual end of this, but like they keep nudging it closer, where like you said, it does progress and it doesn't feel like it's still obviously lingering, but it's not horrible because we're like, okay, well half the issue is solved now. Like one at least knows who the other is,
Yeah.
and then we just have to work on the vice versa, reverse this, whatever. So at least now, like again, I feel like in a week or two, tops, like this can't keep getting drug out necessarily. So they're just gonna have to figure out.
And now I think we can do potentially some really interesting stories where like Hanto has to lay out his whole side of the story, which involves Suga and the crazy surgery that he had. And then maybe Gav and Shoma has to get involved with Suga in a more direct way, which I think could be really cool, and progress the Suga storyline because this happened. So that's my thoughts, is where this goes, or hopefully where this goes.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's because now that they established that, like, obviously Shoma's gonna be like, "Well, how'd you get this? Like, who do you
Yeah.
know here? You met me." Because I mean, like,
The
to
first question is gonna be,
Shoma,
"Oh my gosh, you're a Granute too," or what, he's gonna
yeah,
think, yeah.
he's like, "You're not my brother. Where'd you come from? Or you're not my
Yeah.
family, I guess." But like, and then it ties to like, so obviously Shoma's tied to the people that could surgery down on Earth. I guess we'll call it. I guess it's Earth still. Um, like his would be his uncle, and
Yeah.
like that would be his tie to like, oh, you met my uncle, you met so and so. But then he's gonna be like, oh wait, who's Sugar? Like, was this person doing? They're doing surgery down here. Like, what's going on here? And then obviously like the we need to share Gochizos thing is imminently easier once Shoma's like, oh yeah, buddy, I'll just eat some candy for you, no big deal.
Yep. I wonder if we get next week, we get a scene where Gav, in full costume, pulls up Honto's shirt to look for his Gav and finds out it's not there. Like, wait, what's going on?
Or maybe not even that necessarily, but like, wait, did you say Shoma or Gav?
If Shoma pulls up Gav,
Okay.
so in the costume, if Gav pulls up Honto's shirt.
Oh, because I could see Shoma rerun like running back the spill the tea
Oh, me
gimmick.
too. Totally.
or
Yeah.
or or something goofier like that of like when him and Investi are chilling at work or just chilling in general. I could see Shoma being real awkward and just keep like staring at his stomach or like,
Oh
hey, your
yeah.
stomach hurts. Hey, there's a bug on you. Hey, do you feel okay? Blah blah. Like I could see that being that reveal more of like Shoma
Yes.
just keeps acting real fucking creepy towards his stomach going forward.
That's gotta be it. Yeah, 100%. That feels exactly like what it's gonna be. Uh, so yeah, that's
My
super fun. I like that. I like that whole vibe.
so the whole catfishing arc, the reasons I laughed so much at it, I think, was just because Chica and Shoma's polar opposites of the way like Val and whoever was running the DMs was amazing to me. Because
Yeah.
every time Chica would be like, no, this could never be him. He would never talk like this. And Shoma would get all like giddy and like googly eyed and be like, oh my God, he's such a charmer. And like they both did that in the beginning. And then once they did the reveal of like the girl runs up and she's like, oh my God, I love you. And he's like, who are you? What are we doing here? And they're like, see, look, it was never him at all. And Shoma's like, oh. And she like walks away laughing and she's like, of course it wasn't. Like,
I
so
really like that
I
one.
I just love like again like the three of their friendships of all like the groups of friends we've had over the years that I know at least like theirs is like the most actual like natural friend group to me. I feel
Yeah,
like
totally.
even before this, but like they keep every week they do a better and better job of like sussing it out a bit more. But this one in particular was definitely just like Shoma being the good wingman of like, oh yeah, my buddy's got this. No, I trust him. Blah blah blah. And then like Chica being like the realist of like trying to like keep the two of them in check or in line with like, don't be idiots. Just being like, no, I told you this was never going to be him. Like, he's not smooth at all. He doesn't know how to talk to girls. Like, what are we doing here? Why do we even think this is him?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're all great together, and Sachika's just like complete immunity to flowery texts and stuff. It was incredible too. Just like, we go into that one scene where he talks about like, the forest turns into oceans or whatever, and like Shoma falls for it, and like Emmy the falls for it completely. And Sachika's like, yeah, but what does that even mean though? Like, are we talking about global warming?
Yeah, like, 'cause like even that, like, I'm telling you, like that whole dumb arc was just like the whole like it was done so well. Because even like they were doing like the blurry, dreamy
Yeah.
film like filter on it, where like uh Anto was like on the balcony staring at the stars, being like, when the forest parts and the trees become ours and the moon rises, and she's like giggling like on her tablet, like jumping in bed, and he's just like he's almost like Geets, like when Geets acts real smooth and just like stares off and does stuff, but
Yeah.
he's acting like suave as shit, like in this little like dream scenario, and that's why I think like Chica railing against it so hard and being like, no, this is not him. Trust me, this doesn't even make sense. This is so stupid. Like,
Yeah. I know him enough to know that he would not be capable of this. Yeah, that was all great. Yeah, the storyline was like so funny and weird in a good way. Like it was interesting It had my attention, and it was we went so long in this episode with no common writer, like no one henching for so long, no like Granute, like we didn't see any Granute monsters running around for so long. Like the show is like singularly focused on this catfishing story for I feel like way more than normal in an episode. And it was like they were in on it. Which again made it really good, but it also like when we got to finally the first tension, I was like, "Oh yeah, like this is a common writer show. Like eventually they're gonna fight a monster. That's how this works." Really really funny. We did get a B plot, I guess, along with this though, which was the stomach family. We actually find out we talked about consequences for the twins last week. The consequence is they're just straight up fired. Longo, who's kind of the head of the family, relieves them of their duties and tells them that they will be married off to people in high society. So attempting,
They gotta keep their standings.
yeah, keep the standing or grow the standing of the stomach family. So that's all the twins are good for these days. And Longo himself heads on down to Earthrealm, and we have like a very intense scene where he kind of like wanders through a crowd, and then he confronts Shoma later and basically oversees the fight that happens. So Longo is like personally involving himself now in the affairs of his Granoots.
And the one gimmick that I do remember being a genius about was weeks and weeks ago. I said I felt like they were setting up at some point where the rest of the kids turn on the parents. So now, if the twins are about to get sold off to the highest bidder, that seems like Little Red Gav might be way more of a good stepbrother if he's going to protect them from all this bullshit.
Yep.
So the first pieces are actually in place now of them being like, yeah, like, and the whole part two was great because they're like, the boss was basically like, yeah, for real, like I told you guys you needed to do this. You're the ones that made up the timeline,
Yeah.
and you failed so many times. Like I'm just done with you now. Like get the hell out of here. We're just done. I just thought that was crazy.
Yeah, for being a villain, he was like kind of like incredibly not reasonable, but like reasoned. It was like, yeah, you set the timeline, you failed to meet it, and now consequences are happening. Like it was like, okay, well, yeah, that does make sense.
He's a
Um,
good project
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I
manager.
guess that's what that means. Um, I think two things happened this episode that um really set up what you're talking about. The like eventually the twins turning good and kind of working with Shoma. One is kind of the conversation that Shoma and Longo have, which is sort of like, "Oh, like you're a bad brother to them too," and like kind of is sort of the vibe of the conversation, where Shoma sort of realizes that the twins are kind of persecuted along with him, and then the twins go out of their way to say when they find out they're gonna get married off, to go out of their way to say, "And we'll be separated," and then they like grab hands, like that's like the worst thing they could imagine. So I think for sure that's not gonna go well.
Yeah,
um, so that'll be exciting to see.
and the one part of when the boss man goes down to watch like Gav do his first like in person fight in front of him, like when he finds the monster Gnu, and he's like, "All right, little guy, let's see what you're up to so far. Let's see how far you've grown." I thought it was cool. Like he just watched the battle. He didn't get involved. Like he just did like the actual like overseer thing, and not
Yeah.
like I'm overpowered and gonna jump in. We just watched the battle, and at the end, he does this like slick like head nod of like, oh, "Okay, I got you," and just kind of like leaves. I just thought it was like so smooth of like, "Okay, I did my intel today. We're good. I see where we're going forward. You're getting better. I see."
Yeah. They did a great job making him seem so scary today without having to do anything. Like, just walking through the crowd and then that conversation, like, how he behaved during it was like, "Oh, you're, like, the next level dude here." Like, this is serious. There's a moment even when he's in Granute World, he, like, pauses in a hallway and you see the reflection of his, like, Granute self in the mirror, behind him, and it's cool looking. Like, I'm excited for when he does kinda go full crazy, but, like, the like, teasing it and the building up of the tension of kind of him doing it is it's going really well so far, I think. So, yeah, they're doing a good job, I think, with all the stomach family. They all have like pretty unique personalities. I kind of know what they're all about, and they're all like kind of scary in their own ways.
The one I do miss though, we haven't seen Glotta for a while.
We have not. No, after she kind of came down and got beaten, the muscle mommy is no longer around. But we do get
I don't I think their one failure of filming too far ahead is I feel like if they would have known how wacky the world was gonna get about that, that maybe they might have put her back in more at this point, or like maybe she's not around as much because they're like, yeah, you people are weird about
Yeah,
this.
people
Like
were getting pretty weird.
we're gonna keep her off a couple episodes now. We'll cut around this.
We saw those comment writer boys just really start putting her in their in their in their thumbnails. We got to make sure
I
this doesn't
say, yeah,
happen.
like, you see someone use her as a thumbnail about like foot stuff? Like, what the hell's even going on? We didn't see
Yeah,
this
what
coming.
what is this?
We didn't ask for this.
Then the next time they insinuated that Gav was like just mashing it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there.
If we can get someone get blacklisted, like the real dream is like the real dream would be somehow pull a Tom, whatever that guy's name is, and have him be like, "Hey, you guys do this podcast, it's popular enough. Like, do you want to send voiceover stuff just to like be in the show, kind of deal?" I think the other polar opposite would also be a win, is if we're somehow like blacklisted from Toei completely,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah, yeah.
like, "You guys can never come associate anywhere near us. If we see you posting things about the show, we're gonna threaten you with like cease and desist." Like that'd be a win.
Totally.
It'd be like how Saban fucked us years and years ago with Power Rangers. Now we're just gonna escalate it to Toei, and like instead of just like YouTube DMCA shits, we're gonna get like actual legal letters of like, please stop doing this. And that's gonna be I'm gonna frame that on the wall. We're gonna retire as champs.
I don't know what that says about you and me, that because I agree wholeheartedly with you that is like a way funnier and way better outcome than like becoming like tight with them. I don't know why what's broken in our
We're
brains,
choosing
but
violence today.
yeah, what are we doing? Um the last thing about this episode I want to point out, Toby, is we open and Shoma is trying sushi for the first time. And people joke a lot about like food in anime looking super delicious. And this was like one of those instances of like it is the most picture perfect like pieces of sushi that you could possibly imagine. Like beautiful, exactly done as you would imagine, like looks too good to be true sushi in the beginning of the show. And it made me
I
very hungry watching it.
my obviously it's like the cold open, so it's like 45 seconds, whatever. My favorite part of it was he just stared at it and he's like, wow, this is so beautiful. What do I do? And he looked across the restaurant, or like the bar, whatever bar top you want to call it, and he's watching some girl eat. And he's like, oh, you dip it in the black stuff. Oh, this is delicious. And he's like watching her like eat with her hands, so he's eating with his hands. I was kind of hoping for a chopsticks thing too, but like maybe you just eat sushi with your hands in Japan. I don't know. But I thought that was funny as fuck that like he has to learn how to eat food too, or like interact with humans because
Yeah.
he's quote unquote an alien. And I was so pissed that there was not a sushi gochisa. I know the whole gimmick on the show is candy and sweet stuff, but he loves sushi so freaking much that I
Yeah.
was pissed he did not get a sushi gochisa, because then we could have got a sushi form, and that probably would have been my favorite form.
He even like kind of talks about like he even says along the lines of like, wow, that like tasted like a treat or something. He says something like that too.
He was like, "This
Uh
is one of my favorites," and gave it like a nice highlight in
yeah.
his food board or food book, whatever, and like
So
it
yeah,
was so close.
we
Yeah.
deserve the sushi form. We did get a quick little update on his food book when he opened it, and he has like bedazzled portions of it. He's starting to highlight now, like you said. It is it's ornate. I really like it. Uh but yeah, that is I guess yeah, that's this episode. Certainly a different one than before, but a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun on that one for sure.
Yeah, like I like the past week or two in general, like I know people joke about it. I do feel bad. There's the times that we don't talk a lot about the episodes, but this episode was like 75% the setup for the DMs for the monster.
Yeah.
And like I don't know what to do about these types of episodes other than like what we do. Like I
I mean, we've talked about this episode for, like, longer than the runtime of the episode already, I think, so I think that's probably, like,
okay,
gi
yeah,
giving
that's
it its
fair.
due. Yeah.
If the episode's
Um
20 minutes and everyone gets 20 minutes of conversation about the episode, about the episode, that seems like a fair, even trade.
Yeah. And I've got even more conversation, some of which is about that episode, because we have an email from our friend Shade, Toby, that I'm gonna read right now. Shade says, "This catfishing case escalated real quick. Greetings, everyone. It's Gabu Gabu time again. This time, there's a lot of important news talk, so let's check out some of the trivia first. So Bandai announced a pre-order for a Gav Gochizo set containing voice lines and the background music from the show. So that's not really a surprise. They do that every year. But Shay says, what's shocking is the fact that the set went out of stock after only 2 days of pre-orders, which is crazy. The voice line toys are rarely this popular. They should make hotcakes Gochizos just because of how well these little guys are selling. That's funny. um, yeah, so I guess this toy line, this show is doing well, which is always good to hear.
I mean, like it definitely seems we're 3, 4 seasons in now, like of doing this together. Like this definitely seems like the most solid, fun, like upbeat is has good plot, driven everything else. Like of all the past couple of seasons, I definitely think this is the most solid season.
Yeah, I think that
Like especially like obviously it's easier to look back on the other ones and be like, oh, this is obviously better than that. But like I feel like the first we're 11 episodes now. We'll call it the first 10. I feel like the first 10 of like Geats and Gotchard compared to this is like wildly different, and not
yeah.
even just because of subject matter. Like I just feel like the show this season specifically like knows exactly what the fuck they want to do with it, and they're just doing it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. I think that Gotchard for sure took a while to figure out the tone of the show and kind of what they were doing. And Geats to some extent as well. I think overall, think I still like Geats better, but it's a very different show. And I see this show appealing to more people than Geats did. Like really, like like it because I think Geats was a show that was like ended up being aimed probably more at the older audience than you know the young kids like we talked about earlier. And I think this is a show that is probably like really crossover hitting because it's like fun and goofy, and that really like brings out the kid and old people. But then it's also going to be fun for kids too. And like you said, they seem very confident in the direction of the story. It doesn't seem like they're like floundering around. There have been no filler episodes. Things have been moving along really, really um not aggressively, but like at a real good clip. And yeah, I think that probably is helping in its popularity.
Well, and like I know we said it before, but I'll repeat again now. Like the other thing too is like with the appeals to all ages thing. If you're a kid watching it, it's still ha ha ha. These people make evil candy, no big deal, and it's just like oh, the evil candy company. When you're adults ish adjacent like us, it's like yeah, this whole storyline is like they're selling drugs and they want to like expand their cartel to sell more drugs and get their drugs more legal and more popular. So everyone's addicted. And like the story,
And also PS they make the drugs out of children
yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
like the like it's almost like a duality kind of thing of like it's the same exact show, but depending on the age you are when you watch it, you look at the presentation of it in a different light, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's very
Like
true.
like like Hanto's dad or investigator dad, whatever, was like literally murdered. His little crystal thing broke, and like I feel like as a kid, you just be like, ha ha ha, he's a toy now, and not really think about it. But like when you're more of an adult, you're like, yeah, like his dad figure was like murdered in front of him, and like
Yeah,
that's just the end of the story. Like that's life.
that's it.
Like he's
Yep.
dead, and that just stops.
Yeah, very true. Shade goes on to say, here are some fun facts from this episode's producer's blog. I found this very interesting. Shade says, the action of Gav versus the agents unfolds in a back alley full of street atmosphere. So yeah, that's kind of where the fight begins. And it is a very colorful alley with like graffiti and stuff. And apparently the producer's blog says this alleyway is not a real place, but a large scale art set constructed between between the walls of the filming studio. Usually it's a plain wall, but a new wall was built with a lot of graffiti and it was applied to it. The decorations also have a realistic texture that gives a sense of human activity. The outdoor unit is dropped, handrails are used, etc. It's because of the space that we were able to realize sequences filled with the essence of Fujita's action with a higher density than ever before. So, yeah, I think, translation, translation awkwardness aside, they it seems like the move away from we're always just gonna film this out at the quarry is intentional, and, like, we've noted that in this show so far of, like, "Oh, hey, they're really, like, doing different things with the set." So, that's cool that we're giving it a unique look because of that. Also in the producer's blog, they talk about the quote shocking scene where Longo descends into the human world. Um, that was also filmed near the filming studio, but the number of people filling the width of the road and the processing of the background create the feeling of a bustling downtown area in the city. The shooting took place before information about gavv had been released. So we had all of the Toei Tokusatsu fan club members gather without knowing what was going to be shot to create the crowd. That's crazy. We included a scene where the people naturally split apart due to the intimidating presence of Longo. So, yeah, that's cool. That was shot before anyone knew anything about gavv. They just put out the call to the TTFC members to come out, make a crowd, and then they shot that scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. Then Shay says, "All right, it's time to talk about some important stuff, so buckle up, everyone." So this is a little long, but I found it interesting. So we'll dive in here. You guys may or may not have noticed, but we're halfway into November already, and there's no announcement for a Gav and Gotchard crossover movie. That is because the Gav and Gotchard crossover movie will not be happening. Period. Why, you ask? Well, that is because number one, there are changes being made to how productions work for these shows. Gav started filming when Gotchard was only 2/3 of the way through, so I'm guessing that the schedule was very tight. Gav's suit actor was literally doing two shows at once around the time Gav started, because he also played Legend in Gotchard. And number two, the winter Kamen Rider movie slot was taken up by Futo Pai, the Futo Pai movie instead, which, if you don't know, that is Kamen Rider Double's anime sequel, which is like wildly popular. So that's getting a movie instead of the Kamen Rider TV show this time around.
This all sounds like this is the setup for them destroying the Tokuverse that we always thought was so cool that everyone like gets jobs forever. This feels
Well,
like the jaded part of me says this sounds like the first step where like maybe we don't do 7 crossovers every year. Maybe once the show's over, just let the characters die off and just maybe come back a year down the road for an episode.
well, there's even more info, so we'll see if we feel it at the end here. This was confirmed by the official Gotchard and Fudo Pai accounts on Twitter, stating that Fudo Pai's movie and Kamen Rider Gotchard Graduations are the only two Kamen Rider movies that are set to be released in the future. Although there's a small chance they'll do a crossover in the show itself, since they've been experimenting with in-show crossovers recently. So I mentioned above how there are changes being made to the production side of these things, like how Gav is being filmed earlier than usual. Well, now we have an answer as to why they're making those changes, and I'll have to do a bit of explaining. Last year, producer Shinshiro Shirakura, who worked on many Toei Tokusatsu shows and is the guy from the "You Weren't Supposed to Know About Trinity" incident on Twitter, was appointed as the head of Toei's newly established character strategy department, aiming to maximize profits, extend IP life, and consider global expansion. At the time, we didn't know exactly what he was going to do, but it seems like we're starting to see it now. Apparently, Gav's early filming schedule is part of his plan to expand the Kamen Rider brand in global markets. From the looks of it, they're primarily focused on Asian markets right now, especially China, because that's where Gav first leaked online. And some quotes: "We're also reforming our production system, and in terms of the currently airing Kamen Rider Gav, it's the first result. May be difficult to tell from the outside what is different from the past, but this is just the beginning. I think that from this year to next year, you will see increasingly visible results, so please look forward to it." Um, and Shade says, "So yeah, when I first heard of the news, I was very cautiously hopeful. This is Toei we're talking about, but I think this is a great move on his part. I think the filming schedule change really has a positive effect towards the quality of the show. Now they can actually take some time with post production. On top of that, they're also able to air the show simultaneously in and out of Japan. Countries like China and Korea have always aired these shows 1 year behind. The focus on China is pretty understandable too. For a long time, Ultraman have had a monopoly in China as the tokusatsu show, and Subaraya have way less of a budget than Toei, so they can definitely compete in that market. So yeah, so they're spreading they're spreading Common Writer around to um other countries. Not the US yet, but one has to imagine if that wouldn't be like a thing they'd be aiming for at some point, maybe, which could be very cool.
If we could get like actual, I don't know, like because now it'd be cool to get the stuff here more. But I feel like as we get the stuff here more, we just get the Americanized version,
Yeah, that's what I don't want.
and then we get like Power Rangers but Common Rider, and I feel like that would ruin. I don't know. Like I'm in this. I complained about it with the Yakuza before, and I guess we'll extend it to this too. I'm so used to the media in a certain form at this point. I feel like it being otherwise doesn't feel right to me. So like the one when Like a Dragon came out and they switched characters and all that shit, the game started and I wasn't really like paying attention at first, and I was like, wait, this is all in English. And I was like, I don't like this at all. It just doesn't feel right to me. So I actually like restarted the whole game just to play it in Japanese, and I was like, yeah, this is Yakuza to me. Like it has to be in Japanese. I have to be reading the subtitles while I talk, or else this is not the right vibe for me. And I feel like if Common Rider comes over, but comes over in the we want to expand this as a global thing vibe and not just like, hey, we brought Japanese Common Rider over, I feel like it would ruin it for me. But that's just my own weird quirk about how that stuff works.
Yeah, I think if they do it, I would want it. So the thing that they're kind of talking about here, Shade put in an image, that's like it's a screenshot of their kind of like business tactic PDF that they put together. But one of the things they talk about
We
is
got a Prezi. They made a Prezi.
they made a Prezi. I'll share it with you here. It's pretty wild. So Shade says, about that specifically. By the way, I got the graphic from Toei's website itself, and he links it entirely in English. It's kind of insane how a company just has a detailed portfolio on what they've been doing up on a website for everyone to read. So yeah, it's like full on English PDF with like graphs and charts and their quarterly financials and where they're going in the future. It's crazy. Just kind of scanning down through it. But the one thing I guess that's important here. They're talking about moving into China, and of course, like censorship is different in Japan versus China, and kind of state censorship and stuff. So specifically, they say overseas where censorship screening is required, we aim to achieve simultaneously distribution with Japan to prevent the spread of pirated copies. The overseas rollout of titles will be expanded. So essentially, they're saying like they can go through and like modify the show for the Chinese market, right? They have time to do that.
Yeah.
I hope that if it does come to the US, I'm with you. I hope that it doesn't mean that they, like, modify the content for the United States. Because yeah, I definitely don't want that. I don't really even want, like I don't even want dubs. I don't even want, like, English dubs. I just want, like, exactly what I'm getting now, but just, like, in an official capacity would be cool. If they did it, and I say this a lot, so, like, a little bit of a broken record thing, but if they did it like they do simulcasts with anime on Crunchyroll, where it's like it's just the show they aired in Japan. We just put subtitles on it, and then you get to watch it. That would be amazing. Like, please don't like change any of the cultural references. Don't go too far out of your way to like Americanize it. Just give me the like unfiltered Japanese thing, and just put English at the bottom so I can read it. That's really all I want. And that seems like such an easy thing to do in that. Um, and I'm sure not every country, like we have a big culture of like really being into Japanese stuff, right? Like that's been going on since like the dawn of video games, really. Um, so it's pretty easy to like give us unfiltered Japanese stuff and people will like it. And I'm sure other countries they probably do need to do a little bit more like building it for that audience that might not have that same sort of cultural viewpoint. But yeah, at least coming here, just give it to me raw, man. Just that's what I want. Um, but yeah, like I think there'd be added benefits there too. Like not just like watching the show, you wouldn't have to like, steal it basically every week like we do now. But like if the toys and stuff came over and stuff, that'd be fun, right? Like if it was cheaper and easier to get Common Rider toys, that'd be really cool. And just all the surrounding little media that might pop up along the same way would be neat. Yeah, they could grow the audience and have more people watching it. Could be cool.
If nothing else, maybe we get a Common Rider Con, and then we can
Yeah.
go, and then we'll show our podcast at the show.
Totally. Exactly. That'd be perfect.
Do you
Shade
think
says,
do you think that our bullshit would work live?
"Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I've wanted to do a live show for a
I
while."
I know we've talked about this in the old days too.
Yeah. No, I think we'd work good live because I mean, like, it would be like what we do now, just like people are there. I don't know. It'd be fine. It'd be great. We could interact with the audience. That'd be like live.
I don't
That'd be
know.
fun. That's
That
that's.
that backfired once a long time ago too.
I was just about to say that's never gone wrong for us.
Because like I feel like the dream scenario would be like sure maybe like I feel like we're not even useful for like a Q&A. Because like the question would be like, how'd you two start doing this?
uh-huh.
And then what do you think of this show? And then beyond that, I just shrug and like there's not really like good questions there. Unless it's like the nonsense we get otherwise. But like I guess the dream scenario would be like backs to the crowd watching a projector and doing like the watch and react live thing. But like I'd be so subconscious or like self-conscious or both, I guess, of like people sitting behind me and listen, watching me watch something and talking.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it might shake me. And then if they like, I would want someone would have to laugh for me to relax.
Yeah.
But then if people laughed in person, I also know I would go too far, and not in any bad way. But like that would be like the enablement I need to be extra stupid.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, like I would do it if the opportunity ever came up, I would do it. I just it would seem surreal to me, and it'd be a weird thing.
It would be crazy. Yeah, I think it would be doing the scenario you're describing of like us watching a thing, facing away from the crowd, like sitting on a couch or something, and we're the silhouettes. Um, would be awkward at first until we got the first laugh, and then I think from that point, I think we'd both like lock in pretty quickly. Uh, I think it'd be fun and interesting.
We're
I
supposed to
don't
be
know.
professionals or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. You really, when you think about it, like we've been doing some form of this for like a long time, so there's got to be some skill that's built there, right? You would think
I would
T-
assume so.
10,000 hours and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
some
the
sort of mastery has been done.
yeah. Who knows of what, but there certainly has been time that has been put in. Shade wraps up his email by saying, "All right, that's it for me today. Hope you find this to be somewhat mildly interesting. Personally, I'm still a little surprised at the fact that they actually did something that seemed like a good move and has a positive impact. Like, wow, maybe this will amount to something great. But still, keep your expectations low. This is Toei we're talking about. So true.
I have a
Imp-
mix of I think it's a good idea. I also think on my jaded side, it's killing the Common Rider verse
it could go
by
really
not
bad. Yeah.
well and like I have no stake in this. Like it, it it is what it is. But from them going like I think we watched like 3 Geats movies during
Uh,
Gotchard or like in the mix between like Geats and Gotchard and everything else.
yeah.
And the fact that there's not like the next level of crossovers here, like even remotely planned, like even in my limited scope of this, and us making jokes all the time of like, oh yeah, they're always in the same group. They always come back like 6 times a year. To go from like heavy movie things to like, well, everyone's kind of busy, and we want to try to do something else. So we're not going to do it anymore, or we're going to do it in a different format or presentation. I guess it just feels weird. It feels like they're killing part of the magic now.
It does feel weird, but like think about it too from the Fudo Pi perspective. So like if you were a Common Rider double fan, you now have gotten like a spin-off anime based on your favorite Common Rider, which is crazy to think of. And then now that spin-off anime has done so well that they're gonna make a movie about it. So like you're getting like all this crazy extra like avenue and in a different format that's like fun and new and interesting that you wouldn't have gotten before. So like it's not like they're doing less Common Writer. They're just like doing kind of more interesting Common Writer instead of just sort of like we have to check the box for the crossover movie. Like they actually like maybe took a step back and said like, "Hey, this Fudo Pie thing's really popular. Maybe we lean into that."
Yeah.
So like you could view that maybe like less cynically that like, hey, it's a cool thing we're doing and we're just excited to be able to pivot and do more of that. Um, but you know, who knows? Yeah, like it's not like the also very cynically, it's not like the crossover movies have always been like incredible. Like they're usually fun, but they're often pretty um frivolous, I guess, as well. Like it's usually just an excuse to like sell another toy or something like that. And then it's like a big giant, new form and like a bunch of flashy stuff. And it's like, I don't know. There's like there's not often a ton of substance in those movies. So like if we have less of them, but the ones we do have are like more impactful, I think I'd be okay with that reality too.
Yeah.
But anywho, that's the business. That is the Toei business. And of course, this could all blow up on our faces like it has before, where they don't actually give us any new Common Writer. They just crack down on us watching current Common Writer, and we lose the ability to do it entirely. Who knows? All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap us up for this week. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you on the internet, Toby?
On Twitter, it's Life of Tobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays. And I also signed up for a Blue Sky, but I don't understand it yet. And I don't even know how to tell you what my name is on there because I think I made it something different. I don't remember now. So maybe someday when I learn how to use Blue Sky, I'll be like, I have a Blue Sky too, but I can't do that yet. So Josh will have to do that.
Yeah, speaking of Blue Sky, I am officially off of Twitter now. I no longer have a Twitter that you can follow, so deal with that, everybody. But you can follow me on Blue Sky. I am at meek.lol, and I can tell you Toby's in just a moment. It is
Wait,
lifeoftobes.
wait.
Dot
You're
b.
meek.lol dot blue blysky
I
dot
am not.
something.
I am
That's what they
not.
all are. That's what they
No,
all are.
I am not. So you can
You wait, you
you
paid
can
for your blue check mark?
you can
You
bring your
motherfucker?
own. No, you can bring your own domain to Blue Sky. I already owned meek.lol, the domain name. So I just am using it on Blue Sky. So you can add any like .com you have or anything like that as your Blue Sky username if you don't want to have the .bsky.social. That's what I'm doing. So I'm just at meek.lol. It's much simpler than having to say my name .bsky.social.
We're
So
gonna have to talk
you
about
should
this.
do that.
So so I
I will
so
teach you
I
how.
so I can just yeah, because then I can
I
just
will
be like
teach you.
commonwritersucks.com or something, right?
You can be commonwritersucks.com. You could
Hell yeah.
be
Sign me the fuck up for
lifeoftobes.com.
Blue Sky.
All right. we'll get Toby signed up. Maybe by the time you hear this, maybe you can go find uh at commonwritersucks.com on Blue Sky
We
and
should
it'll be
probably get that
Toby.
anyway. We should probably
Yeah,
get
we
that anyway.
we actually should maybe get that and make that like the official show, like the official
The
show
show
account.
Twitter?
Yeah,
Okay.
so like you have one,
Okay.
I have one, and then we have a show one. We should probably actually do that. We've never done that up until now, but we should probably like do promotion for the show at some
All right,
point.
so real quick then. This is we'll call us the end of the episode after this conversation right now. If we're having this conversation right now, this needs to be done before this episode comes out, just in case.
It will be. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll commit to it.
Okay.
Find the show at commonwritersucks.com on Blue Sky. Uh, and yeah, so Blue Sky, you can also find us on YouTube, which is youtube.com/prettydece, which is the comment writer channel. You can find all the videos there. And yeah, hopefully you guys come over to Blue Sky as well too. I've been enjoying that app for a little bit now. Seems like a lot of people are making the transition over. I know some of our audience has already like followed me on there and stuff, and I hope it is like the height of Twitter was for me, where I have a small close knit group of friends that I can interact with on a daily basis, because that brought me a lot of joy. So hopefully, if you want to, you know, shout random things at me on the internet, that's a good place to do that. So, yeah, follow along and check us out there. And yeah, we'll set up the show account too. All right, that is going to wrap us up for this week. Next week we'll be back. We'll talk about Commodore Gav episode 12, the fallout of Honto's identity being revealed. And we hope you join us back for that. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.